Okay, welcome everybody. Good evening. Uh, as you've already explained certain things to you. You know who I am. Um, Diana's a member of the Bylaws and Election Committee, and Lori is a member of the Youth and Outreach Committee and liaison for the homeless. Diana will be asking the questions. Lori will be assisting with mute and unmuting, and I will provide technical assistance with the countdown of the clock. And it will go to the 8-second mark, and you will hear me say, please wrap up. And that means, you know, if you can wrap it up in 8 seconds, Lori will probably give you a second or two leeway, but we need to wrap it up. Lori will now explain the election process.
Good evening, everyone. Dates. All election information available on Pedro.
You're freezing, Lori.
You're bouncing in and out.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. My internet keeps, I told you, I'm sorry. So the information on the election is also in the current edition of the Advocate newsletter. This candidate forum video will be added to the Neighborhood Council website at the end of the recording. This year, the Neighborhood Council elections will be administered by the City Clerk's office. Voting can be done either by mail or in person. In-person voting will be held on April 1st, no fooling, at Peck Park Auditorium at 560 South Western Avenue in San Pedro. Voting hours will be from 12 noon to 6 p.m. This is the simplest method, as you can register and cast your vote or drop off a mail-in ballot at this location during these hours. Vote by mail begins with requesting a ballot in advance. Vote by mail applications may be made online or by mail and must be received at the city clerk's office by March 13th. To apply for a vote by mail ballot, go to the online Vote by Mail 2023 Neighborhood Council filing portal. You can find the link on our website, nwsanpedro.org, or in the recent edition of our newsletter. The newsletters are getting mailed this week. After processing your application, the city clerk will mail the ballot to you along with a postage-paid return envelope. Mail-in ballots must be postmarked by April 1st and received by the city clerk no later than April 11th. Alternatively, they can be dropped off in the Peck Park Auditorium on April 1st between noon and 6 p.m. Please refer to nwsanpedro.org if you have any questions regarding this election, as the process is explained there in much more detail. You can also call the city clerk's office at the phone number listed on our website, or you can always email John Barbera. Thank you. Now I'd like to introduce Diana Nave, who will conduct the candidate forum.
Thank you, Lori, and good evening, everyone. Thank you all for being here. Tonight, you will meet 13 candidates. You're going to meet 12 candidates. We have one candidate, Leila Aguilar, who had an emergency. We have one candidate, Michael Signorelli, who has withdrawn. And we have another candidate, Marcos Garcia, who is not here tonight.
Hang on a second, Diana. I have a Carlos in the attendees.
Oh. Is that you, Carlos?
Go ahead, Carlos. Carlos, is that you? Okay, he left. I guess it wasn't him.
He disappeared.
Our candidate isn't named Carlos. Our candidate is Marcos.
Marcos. Yeah.
Oh, Marcos. That's right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Okay. Okay. So I will be asking each candidate to answer the same 3 predetermined questions, and they will each have 1 minute to respond to each question. We're going to be using a revolving alphabetical approach to the speaking order in order to provide as much fairness as possible. So that is, we're going to rotate the order in which the questions are answered. John is going to be displaying the countdown clock to assist in keeping each candidate within the time allotted for their answer. They will receive a warning 8 seconds before their time is up and will be muted when their time has expired. None of the candidates know the questions that we are going to be asking tonight. After everyone has answered all three of the questions, each candidate will have 1 minute to provide closing comments. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to take any questions from the public tonight. So let's get started. Our first question is, what skills and experiences do you have that will help you to be an effective neighborhood council board member? And we're going to start with our business representative seat. There's one candidate for that seat, and that candidate is Ray Regalado. Ray, you have 1 minute to answer the question. What skills and experiences do you have that will help you to be an effective board member?
Starting now.
Thank you all. I want to just start off by saying I think my skill sets that allow me to be an effective neighborhood council person. Spent 10 years plus with the neighborhood council. Currently, 9 of those years I've been as president. I'm current president right now of Northwest San Pedro Neighborhood Council. But I think the thing that keeps me more in tune to what is important is the 20 plus years that I've been with Los Angeles County. I was with the Human Relations Commission, and with my work there, I developed a study that identifies the relationship between community and police relations.
Please wrap up.
And be the end of my experience.
Thank you.
The next seat is for a representative of a non-governmental organization. And again, we have one candidate for this seat, and that's Pastor Adam Stevenson. So Pastor Stevenson, what skills and experiences do you have that will help you to be an effective board member?
I believe it would be more so in working in customer service, if you want, to our patient relations, as it pertains to my military career and working in medical when I was in the military, as well as some of my previous job experiences, which has given me a vast array of experience with different cultural groups. I would say, especially I worked in the VA, for the VA hospital. I've worked for the federal prison, and I was in the military, as well as all of y'all know I'm a pastor. And so all of those experiences in dealing with community, I think has prepared me for this time.
Thank you. The next seat is for a representative who lives or owns property in the Park Western area. And we have 2 candidates for this seat, Cole Ariola Carr and Corey Miller. 2 candidates with somewhat similar first names. We're going to start with Cole Ariola Carr. So would you like to tell us what skills and experiences you have that help you to be an effective board member?
Yeah, for sure. So a little bit about me and my background. A lot of what I do for what I do at my job and on the regular basis through work and throughout my history and my career has been coalition building and stakeholder engagement. I've worked a total of about 6.5 years working for members of Congress, and also doing some coalition work as far as outreach and liaison work with cities and with counties and other local governments and local nonprofits and organizations that really make communities jive and work. I've also done the same thing in working with services, providing services and advocacy for some local governments across California, as well as some nation building, coalition building on that front as well. So I do work within the background of stakeholder engagement and coalition building, and that's exactly what I would seek to bring here to the Park Western seat and the board at large. So thank you so much.
Thank you. The second candidate for this seat is Corey Miller. Mr. Miller, what skills and experiences do you have that will help you to be an effective board member?
Born and raised in San Pedro, been a public school teacher, LA Unified School District for 28 years at San Pedro High School. So with that being said, I know how to delegate, I know how to organize. I was also the head football coach at San Pedro High School for 6 years, assistant coach for 22, head track coach for 10. So when it comes to dealing with large organizations and people, I know how to get along and know what to expect from a lot of people in organizations. With that being said, Pedro Boyd took me to give back. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So the next seat is for a representative who lives or owns property in the Summerlin Mirror List area. There's actually 2 seats available, and there are 4 candidates. And you will be able to vote for 2 of the 4. The higher vote getter will receive a 4-year term, and the second highest vote getter will receive a 2-year term. So the 4 candidates are Robert Bellaveo.
It's Bellevaux, like Chateau.
Bellevaux, thank you. Marcos Garcia, Gwendolyn Henry, and Thomas Norman. So we're going to start off with Robert Bellevaux.
Oh, yes. Good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here. And again, my name is Robert Bellevaux, as Mrs. Diane Nave. Is your name pronounced Nave?
Yes, it's Nave, thank you.
All right, then. Thank you for your help. And again, I'm just running as a seat on the neighborhood council so that I can support my local community. I have experience as a board member in the HOA here at Mirrorless Canyon Estates, where I've lived for 23 years. I've also been a 20-year veteran school teacher for the Los Angeles Unified School District, kindergarten through 5th grade. And my experience as a UTLA representative there for a short term could also attribute to our neighborhood council. I also have a background in art, pottery, and that sort of thing, where the recreational center could benefit from my experience as a ceramics, pottery, sculptor, that sort of thing, inventor, and I have a few patents and that sort of thing. So yes, I've been also a local business owner. So yeah, I have good communications and customer service skills. So I look forward to.
Thank you.
Okay, the next candidate is Gwendolyn Henry.
Hello. I've lived in San Pedro for about 7-8 years now. And as soon as I moved into this neighborhood, I found out about the neighborhood council system and felt amazed that I was able to involve myself in the government so closely. I come from a media background, communication, but I've recently changed careers and am now seeking an environmental position, biology, with a study in biology and forestry, specifically to hopefully get into urban forestry. Now, as far as the neighborhood council goes, I've also been active with the YMCA throughout my early years, and I'm active with events and having been a board member for 7 years. Thank you.
Thank you. The next candidate for this seat is Thomas Norman.
All right, thank you. It's nice to see everybody today. The skills and experience that I have include experience with several of the people on this call. The skills I think most important are the ability to listen to people, stakeholders in our community, and the ability to manage meetings. So I'm serving as chair for a Port Environmental Sustainability Committee right now. Got 2 years experience on this council. I've got 20 years of business experience, building and doing things in that regard. And I spent 15 years as an educator, as a parent of 3 teens who are growing up in San Pedro, some of who played for Coach Miller here. Get around, I'm in the Rotary Club, try to contribute to our high schools locally, a lot of the nonprofits, and I'm very happy if given the opportunity to continue sharing that experience to better Northwest San Pedro. Thank you.
Thank you. As I said earlier, the 4th candidate for this seat, Marcos Garcia, is not here. Still don't see him. Okay. The next seat is for someone who lives or owns property in the Taper area. And there's 1 candidate, and that's Vic Christensen.
Hi, I have been I'm a native San Pedran, lifetime San Pedran. In fact, living in the same house right now I grew up in. I have been a community representative for the Science Center in San Pedro that I basically grew up going to and feeding the animals when they were there. I've been on the board for 2 years, all the time as the secretary and also a Zoom administrator. I've been on the community issues committee for 4 years, working with community issues around the Northwest San Pedro area. Professionally, I'm a technical writer, technical editor. So the goal is to make sure that all the letters that go out of the council are
Please wrap up.
well written and convey the message they want to convey. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have we have 2 available at-large seats, and we have 2 candidates. And you would be able to vote for 2 candidates. A higher vote getter will receive a 4-year seat, and the lower vote getter will be placed in the 2-year seat. The candidates for the at-large seats are Cynthia Gagne and Alan Natian. So Cynthia, do you want to take a minute and tell us what skills and experience you have that will help you be an effective board member? You're muted. You need to restart the clock, yeah.
Unmute, Cynthia.
There, I have it. For some reason, when I unmute, I have a lot of garbage on the top of my screen. Okay, I'm a 33-year veteran in the federal law enforcement, and as an officer in the United States Army, I was the lead officer for the disaster evacuation of families from Germany in case of a disaster, and that was 250 people I had to watch. And as an FBI senior special agent, I handled numerous investigations, court preparations, and I was an expert witness on the stand several times. Then I've been in California now for 25 years, on the board for 10 years. And since then, I volunteered for the LA Sheriff's Office and as a ham radio operator in my church, as a video director, and for the LA Mayor's Office crisis response team.
Please wrap up.
And I thank you for hearing me. Appreciate it.
Okay, next candidate is Alan Natian.
Yes, that is correct. Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so my name is Alan Natian. I've born and raised in LA my whole life. And my day job is in marketing and advertising. So I've learned how to read audiences and figure out what they want and interpret that information for them. And so I also learned how to research new topics and ideas and figure out as a pastime how to like apply them to my community. And so I just like to know and so with all that said, I have a passion for my community, and I look around and I could see how things can be better for all of us. And what else I have? Yeah, that's pretty much it. I look around and I see that yeah, that's it. Really quick.
Thank you. The last category of seats is for someone who lives or works in the Averill area. And there are 2 available seats, and there are 3 candidates. You're going to be able to vote for 2. The 3 candidates are Layla Aguilera, who had a family emergency tonight and isn't with us, Anelia Cortemp, and Chris Valle. So we'll start with Anelia Cortemp. Please tell us what skills and experiences you have that will help you to be an effective board member.
All right. Well, frankly, I don't care about how much experience someone has. I don't mean to be rude to anyone, but your experience is largely determined by the connections and opportunities that you had in life more than anything else. That said, I have plenty of it. I've worked as a reporter for Random Lengths. I'm a labor activist. I've worked as a political planner for multiple people who've ran in the South Bay area, and I'm a teacher with LAUSD. So I have plenty of that experience, right? But more important than that aspect is if you're an advocate for your whole community, rather than an advocate for just the wealthy, the housed, and the affluent. It's the values that bring that you bring to the table that are more important than like how stuffed your portfolio is. So like when it comes to what I value and how I work, it's that I bite hard, my advocacy is educated, it's zealous, and I don't back down from a fight. I'm going to,
Please wrap it up.
fight for my community, and I'm not going to back down by any means necessary. All right.
Thank you. The next candidate is Chris Valle.
Thank you. I have been on the board, what'll be 8 years in August, currently vice president and the chair of the Youth and Outreach Committee. I've had a variety of experiences on the board already, including attending Civil University and the Congress of Neighborhood Councils several times to give me more of a nuts and bolts set of skills in terms of how the neighborhood council system operates. But the relationships that I've made with other board members and other members of the community, I think, are really the most important resource. That is the human relationships and those connections are really where the organization and the planning for the work happens. My professional life, I'm a photographer and cinematographer, small business owner, and a government contractor. I work regularly with the County Board of Supervisors in the harbor departments of LA and Long Beach. So I often work with outreach and public affairs agencies to basically foster those conversations.
Thank you.
That concludes the first question. I think everyone had an opportunity to answer it. The second question for all the candidates is, thinking about the roles of neighborhood councils, what is the issue that you most want to address as a board member, and how have you or do you plan to address it? This time, we're going to start with the Taper area, where the only candidate is Vic Christensen. So, Victor, what's the issue you most want to address as a board member, and how have you or do you plan to address it? Are you unmuted?
Yeah, I'm unmuted. I was thinking before I unmuted. Well, the biggest issue, I think we would probably all agree, especially Lori, is the homeless issue. I'm not sure how I personally can, I'm not an expert in that area, so I'm not sure how I personally can directly address that, but I would definitely be able to objectively consider the options that the experts would provide and help determine the best course of action. The other thing I can think of is what I would call blight, with things like buckled sidewalks and things like that. We need to get the city to fix things like that and do their job.
Please wrap up.
And so I would push for, tackling those things and getting them to do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we're going to hear from the at-large candidates, and we'll start with Alan Natian. Alan, you may want to bring your video back on as well. So Alan, thinking about the roles of neighborhood councils, what is the issue you most want to address as a board member, and how have you or do you plan to address it?
Okay. The main issue I've noticed in San Pedro, and specific in LA, is how car dependent and unfriendly to pedestrian it is. And so I would like to use this and everyone else as a advocacy in a platform area to tell the council members that we need to have options that are not just for driving, because currently if that's our only option, then that's not really freedom at all. You have to drive everywhere. And I personally have a car, but I just hate driving everywhere. And so I like to advocate for more bike lanes, more protected bike lanes. And the way I would foresee this happening is that we would have more community input to see what the people actually think. And then hopefully your council member listens to numbers, and then there might be change from that. So strength in numbers.
Please wrap up.
I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you. The next candidate for the at-large is Cynthia Gagne? Gagne? Cynthia,
Okay, can you hear me?
thinking about the roles of neighborhood councils, what is the issue you most want to address as a board member? And how have you, or do you plan to address it?
Okay, so I've been on the board for 10 years. And my both of my concerns are with disaster preparedness and crime management. Both of them I think are serious, and for the immediate one would be our crime. We have speeding on our residential streets, we have robberies from our cars and from our homes, and people need to feel safe in the community. They shouldn't be afraid to walk from their house to a store or to their car. Also, if we have a disaster, whether it's a storm or the electricity goes out for days or something even worse than that, people have to be prepared. They have to have backpacks. They have to have an evacuation route. They have to have a way to communicate with their families to know where they can meet somewhere. So I think one is short-term for safety and then one is long-term for safety. And that's my main concern. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to move on to the April area, and we're going to start this time with Chris Valle.
Thank you. My top priority in on the board really touches on all the other concerns that have been expressed tonight. I think the other ones that will be, and that is how to raise the level of influence and engagement that the neighborhood council, that our neighborhood council and then neighborhood councils in general have. All of the topics that are brought up, from homelessness to public safety and things like that, are going to have to be addressed with public agencies that, we're supposed to be a bridge between the stakeholders, these public agencies. And to some degree, in my short experience on the board, those agencies have gotten used to dealing with us in a certain way. So sometimes it's deflection, sometimes we're being ignored. And the same way that we have to find new ways and better ways to engage with our stakeholders, we need to find ways to organize and prepare so we can be taken more seriously and have really more to offer, as well as being able to demand more from public agencies. We have a certain style of communication, and I think that making our presence known and impactful is a top priority.
Thank you. Amelia Coit.
Yeah. Hello, I have three major issues that I would like to, sort of touch on. One is infrastructural. We need, in order to address the homelessness issue in San Pedro, a proper social housing network. We also need to build out our public transit system. We've recently cut a whole bunch of buses. We need to reinstate those. We need better bike lanes that'll free up road space, increase walkability in our neighborhood, which is proven to help small businesses. We need to address our uneven relationship with the city of Los Angeles. We are often used as LA's dumping ground, right? So I want more autonomy for the city of San Pedro. I want more city councilmen on the board of Los Angeles at large, so that the power of the city council is more dispersed and thus would give us more influence. We need to be holding oil companies and shipping companies accountable for the air quality damage they're doing to our city, and we need to be holding our rogue city councilman, Mr. McOsker, accountable, as he has been acting against city interests.
And the next, we're going to have the one candidate for the business seat, Ray Regalado.
Unmute, Ray.
Sorry about that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on some of my training and education, and it's in the area of dispute resolution. I want to be able to address the issue of effective problem solving. If we're going to be representing our communities, we have to effectively problem solve for our community as a group. Now, when we're problem solving, I want to make sure that we identify the problem. I also want to make sure that anyone who identifies the problem is also identifying a solution. We need to identify what those solutions might be. And on top of that, not only identifying the solution, but also how do you plan on being one of the change agents that will help us solve that problem. And I want to make sure that we do this with respectful civic engagement, making sure that we can sit at the table to be heard.
Thank you. Next, we're going to hear from the candidate for the non-governmental organization seat, Pastor Adam Stevenson.
All right, so when we speak of neighborhood and we speak of community, all right, and representation, inclusion, diversity, let's be clear, none of our neighborhood councils are very diverse. Let's just be honest. And so for someone like me, a Black man, when things happen in the community, I have to deal with Black people. It's very hard for individuals who don't have that lens or don't have those relationships to speak on our behalf. And so I can use the Peck Park thing. While I know it was a serious thing, it was a lot of misinformation when it came to Peck Park and what happened. And I'm pretty sure with all the people who were speaking on the day that happened, none of your phones rang, because you're not the people who deal in these communities to know what's taking place. So when all that misinformation goes out there, it really hurts our community and it damages our community instead of building up. And so I think that is what I bring to the table. When we speak of situations like that happen in the community and someone being able to speak on behalf of that community.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now we're going to hear from the candidates for the Park Western area, and we'll start with Corey Miller. Please tell us, in thinking about the roles of neighborhood councils, what is the issue you most want to address, and how have you or do you plan to address it?
For me, it's always been about improving quality of life. As a resident of the Peck Park neighborhood, that park or jog through that park almost every day. I grew up in that park playing sports my whole life. My dad was on the old Boys Sports Association board back in the day. That's when they held the whole rocket over there. So, you know, that's my stomping ground. And to see the deterioration of that park today breaks my heart. We have a swimming pool there that hasn't been feasible or used for over 5 years. That's an absolute travesty to the kids of this community. For anybody who lives on this side of town knows it's a lot hotter than to have two pools on the south side and us to have none. You know, and to have our senior citizens be denied opportunity for aerobics and what have you. So that's my goal, Peck Park Pool.
Thank you. And the next candidate for this seat is Cole Ariola Carr.
Yeah, so one of the things that have really has really come to be an issue here for me that I'd love to address with the board and as a board member in the future, hopefully, is the issue of public safety as well as neighborhood safe streets and pedestrian friendly streets. It goes very, very deep. It's more than just making sure that our sidewalks are good and safe and flat so that we don't trip and fall. Can't say that I've done that many times, but also making sure that it's safe to walk across the street, making sure that when it comes time to get out and about that we can freely, safely walk our streets, and not only just do that here in the Park Western neighborhood in that Peck Park area, but across the city as well. And it takes all of us as a voice to actually elevate that issue. So these issues and more, I'd seek to be a voice as a member of the council and to work with other councils in our neighborhood around San Pedro to really elevate our voice to the city and beyond. So that is.
Thank you. The last seat that we're going to be having addressed this question are the candidates for the Summerland and Mirror Est area. And we'll start with Gwendolyn Henry.
So we need to, as board members, whoever is elected, need to absolutely commit time, our time, to reaching out to our community and get information. I have my pet interests. I'm on the Port and Environment and Sustainability Committee, and pretty much everything that is a concern about the community is a sustainability thing. There's kids who can no longer afford housing here. There's safety concerns. Peck Park, there are ways to restore the park and to bring people back. There's a whole engagement with that's going on right now. These things require us to listen to our community and then do the things that we need to do to respond to those issues. I could go on forever about this, but every person who needs to commit, please commit your time, commit your effort.
Thank you.
The next candidate for this seat is Thomas Norman.
Thank you. You know, I want to start by echoing something Coach Miller said. Fill that pool at Peck Park. You know, my answer is we need to improve our community. There's some things that are getting better in San Pedro. There's some things that are not. The park needs to be safer. We've had another, candidate talk about that. It's not safe enough living adjacent to the park. And I moved to San Pedro because of that park. My kids, all three of them, used to swim in that. And I look at the folks who couldn't go over to the west, the young people, right, who don't have that opportunity. I look at the young people not using that park. We need to build a community that has hope for the young people. We need a community that's hope for everyone. That's why I'm happy to serve on the Youth and Outreach Committee and serve on the Port Environmental Sustainability. We can be replanting that park. We need to be, pushing the port to make sure they're, doing their share, because so many jobs, our air, so many things are related on that economic engine that drives Los Angeles. And we need to have a strong advocate to make sure the city is helping us to do well by our children so we have a future.
Thank you. Robert Bellevue.
Good evening. Hi, everybody. Those were awfully good ideas. I think everybody hit on a very good point. Homelessness here is a concern for me as a homeowner in the HOA, where we have a $2 million budget, or I'm sorry, deficit. And we're supposed to have a $3 million reserve account, which has been depleted. So the HOA here in Mirrorless Canyon Estates, which is probably, 1,500 to 2,000 residents that would become homeless if we went into a foreclosure as a result of this nepotistic embezzlement that's been caused by conflicts of interest without any checks and balances. So my goals as a board member is to create more accountability and transparency. And of course, if we wanted to, solve problems in a more I want to also show some appreciation for the United States Postal Service volunteers. The young ladies there that help us out for the past 50 years, I think deserve some sort of appreciation from us. And the potholes on the way to Harry Bridges when you're recycling your cans could be improved upon. Thank you.
Okay, that gets us to our third question, which really deals with a topic that several of you dealt with as a part of your answer to the last one. And that is, as a board member, how would you go about engaging the community? So this time we're going to start with the Averill area, and we'll start with Anelia Corstamp.
Okay, so how are we supposed to engage with our community? Well, directly if we can, yes. You go directly to the people, you advocate, and you do so in a direct democratic fashion as much as you can. Those who are directly affected by the issues directly voting on what they believe to be the most effective solution to be. Your job as a neighborhood council member is not to lead people. It is to obey the will of the people that is put on you, and then do and execute that will as effectively as possible. Moreover, right, we are an intermediary, meaning it is our job to hold those above us accountable to those below us, and vice versa, right? And so when you have, city councilman behaving in a fashion unbefitting of the role, it is our job, right, to directly take that information and advocate it to our neighborhood fellows, and to be the advocate to hold the accountability to those above us, and to be that advocacy network.
Thank you. The next person is Chris Valle. Chris, how, as a board member, how would you go about engaging the community, or how have you gone about engaging the community?
I think the way that I would choose to continue is what we've been doing pretty successfully for several years. The Northwest has got a pretty well-established and well-regarded track record in terms of public events, publications, and media. And again, being chair of Youth and Outreach, it's something I've either assisted or been in charge with over the last several years. But I think that a calendar of public events where we can meet people, shake hands, talk, public meetings, strong social media presence, which we're working hard to develop, as well as, partnering and joining other people's events. It's we've had a great deal of success, especially in the last couple of years when COVID has been a huge limitation, and sort of other budgetary and logistical limitations mean it's not always easy for us to put on our own events, but we're finding that partnering with other public agencies, other nonprofits, kind of as a force multiplier, allows us to spread a wider net and go to where people.
Thank you.
Okay, next we'll go to the business seat, Ray Regalado.
Good question. I'm going to go back on to my experience as a community organizer. The way I would take care of this, look at this situation is that use the power of the one-on-one. Get people, talk to people, start developing those relationships with community so that they feel that there's a place for them at the table. And when you invite them to the table, look at that table and figure out who is not there and go out and invite those other people to represent our community population and our surrounding population. We have to, those relationships are so important because they are the ones that help develop trust. And once you develop trust, then you're able to effectively create change and effectively keep change as we move forward. So you need to initiate the relationship, develop the relationship, and nurture the relationship.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from the candidate for the non-governmental organization seat, Pastor Adam Stevenson.
So what I think is very important is to have those deep connections, and especially when we speak of partnering. So if I'm honest, the way that I found out about the Northwest Council is by doing something that pretty much we had never done as a pastor. We opened up which many of you know, we opened up our doors as a church, and then we held the community forum there when Danielle Sandoval as well as Councilman McCosker came. But that was something that we had never done as a church. And so understanding that faith is very important, but so is partnership. And so me being a pastor and having a building and an edifice there, opening that building so we can have more community outreach things and more community participation. And that's the way I met all of you, right, through that. And so I think that's very healthy and very important, especially as it relates to me being a faith-based organization, inviting the community into that space.
Thank you. Now we're going to move to the Park Western area, and we'll start with Cole Ariola Carr.
Yeah, well, as far,
oh, go ahead.
No, sorry, go ahead.
As a board member, how would you go about engaging the community?
Yeah, it's just about going to see people, meet people where they are, where they're engaged, where they are in their community, getting their experience, hearing what they have to say and their stories, and really gathering what it is at the core that makes not only San Pedro what it is and its essence and its awesomeness, but also some of the issues that we need to address and really speak on collaboratively and in a very engaged fashion. You know, for me, I go around not only just talking to people in the grocery store line and whatnot, but I'll go out about, you'll see me walking my dog Wally and Jimmy. I know that's how we see people. That's how we know people. That's how we get to know what's going on in the communities. But that's what's here in San Pedro and Northwestern San Pedro. We've also got to look beyond kind of what's just here in Northwestern San Pedro and engage with our neighbors, see what's there, and maybe find some of those common issues to really elevate and get that voice going. So that is how I would look to engage and seek this as a board member.
Thank you. Corey Miller?
Yeah, I think a lot of times people have thoughts and concerns and they just don't know how to express them, or they don't know who to express them to. So for myself, you know, as a coach, I was always delegating, and I would, as a board member, I would be a soundboard, kind of a collection. Give me your thoughts, give me your input, and I return it to the community. And maybe just like Mr. Valle said, possibly getting better technology in terms of information so people can get it out there. Because like I said, I think a lot of times people just don't know who to voice their opinion to. So just more of a collective, I guess, technological input, because a lot of times today people just, they don't know who to talk to, or they're afraid to talk to. So as a board member, I wouldn't mind being that go-between.
Please wrap up.
Thank you. Next we're going to move to the Summerlin Merrill Est area, and we'll start with Gwen Henry.
Well, starting with April 8th, there's going to be an event over at Peck Park. And I'm hoping that others on this call and others on the board will participate in that. when we have our own outreach at that event. Before the pandemic, we were really getting the ball rolling on two environmental events, sustainability events, one EcoFest and one WildFest. And the next one was supposed to be in collaboration with public safety. And we're hoping to rebuild that event. But this is for education. This is educating and engaging with not just our community, but the entire Bay Area, this entire community of San Pedro, Wilmington, everybody who can needs to go. So it's about being on the ground and doing these things. Also,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Thank you. The next person we'll hear from is Thomas Norman.
Thank you. You know, I agree with what Gwen was just saying, that you need to be present. So 3 things I would do. One is you got to be out there. That's what outreach does. If you're in that committee, you've got to sit at under our tent we have, you know, listen to folks, get their ideas. That second piece is really listening then and having that commitment to do what they want, right? Not what we want. And then the third thing, which might be one of my more unique skills, is put it together, right? So as a chair and as academic senate leader at Cal State Dominguez Hills for about 12 years, I've been taking these ideas and putting them into resolutions, and the board will put them together as letters, where you've got a group of people sitting down and trying to come up with something coherent. How are we going to get that pool operational, right? What are we going to do to make the park better? What can we do about the air quality, you know, with our port? So trying to use those skills so we can actually translate the many things that people want done, crystallize into something that actually benefits our community. Those of you who show up at the have my respect. That's what we need to do. And I hope everyone who gets elected shows up in the outreach events.
Thank you. And the last candidate for the Summerlin Real Estate area, Robert Bellevue.
Yes, that's again Bellevue, like Chateau. I thought we went over that, Mrs. Nave. No, it's no problem. I'm just teasing you. So there'll be a multiple choice test at the end. No, everyone has really good ideas. I think we're all on the right track to solving problems. It's just the difference between public education and charter schools. Of course, there's a big difference, and I'm sure we could go well beyond our means beyond to discuss that. But a positive impact through the community could be done very well through artistic and athletic ideas, maybe even a community run of 5K or a 10K, or maybe revising some of the pottery kilns in the recreational center at the Peck Parks, or the skateboarding community through their website or whatever it is that they enjoy, because there's a community of kids that can use a mentor. And I think we can do that through improving our public education through the
Thank you. So then we'll move on to the Taper area, and we'll hear from Vic Christensen.
I think everybody has pretty much the same idea of getting out there and listening to people and talking to them, finding out their ideas and things like that. On the other side, I think we need to also show them that they can come and listen, come to the meetings and voice their opinions and expect that something will get done. And part of that is, the way that we put on the meetings. There's legislation in process right now regarding whether we go back to all in-person meetings or hybrid meetings and things like that. And we need to, in my opinion, keep it at a minimum hybrid to allow more outreach to people who can't get to an in-person meeting physically.
Please wrap up.
So if they have more of a chance of having input, then maybe they will join us and help solve problems. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move to the at-large seats, and we'll start with Cynthia Gagne. Cynthia?
Wait, am I unmuted now?
Yes, you are.
Thanks. Okay, yeah, I agree. Since I've been on the board for 10 years, I've met so many people just by doing this outreach. I live in a community of 7 condo associations. So by going to their board meetings, I find out what the people right around me. My neighbors want. Every time I go to a store, I try and visit another store and I talk to the supervisors and the employees, and I tell them who I am and what I work for, ask them if they have any issues. At my church, I do that. At the 5-mile races I work at, I do it. And when I talk to them, I listen, of course, like everyone has said that. But then I go and I take a big issue to a committee. If there's a smaller issue, like they're having problems with their garbage pickup or a pothole, I'll call that office. And then I get back with the person and I let them know exactly what I did to help them out.
Okay, and the other candidate for the at-large seat, Alan, Natian?
Okay, well, how I would engage with the community is through, well, first to go where they are. And so I know a lot of people, I first have a really strong social media presence. So, and social media, not just limited to Facebook's properties, I'm talking about like TikTok and stuff too. And that way we get a lot of younger voters too, and stakeholders, because, you know, we live all in a diverse city. And so we'll use that as, you know, as a place to tell people where physical events are or online, you know, and also schedule meetings and events during a time when people are not working. That way we could get more community impact, because we, you know, we live in a society, we have different walks of life. And so I feel like overall just meet people where they're at, and also educate people through our social media impacts, and then figure out what they want at the end, so that we have a well-informed city and society.
Thank you. That ends the prepared questions. So at this time, each candidate will have 1 minute to provide any additional information that you think is important for voters to know about you and your candidacy, or to add to something you didn't get to say earlier. So we're going to start this time with the Park Western area, and we'll start with you, Corey Miller.
Yeah, basically, as I stated before, born and raised in this town. I've been blessed to live here and still live here. Just want to give back. That's what it's all about, giving back to the community. Believe me, by all means, I'm a political neophyte, never held the office of any type, but I am a leader. So in that regard, just willing to give back in any way capable, shape, form, being nice, being polite, doing the right thing. That's what it's all about. Thank you very much.
Cole Ariola Carr.
So just it's been great to be a part of this evening and hear from some fellow candidates and peers here. One of the things that I've just absolutely grown to love about the community, I've been coming here for quite some time. I finally was able to move here about a year ago. And I've been coming ever since for a couple of years prior. But what I've loved about San Pedro is that it just doesn't feel like the bigger city. It doesn't feel like LA. It doesn't feel like Southern California. And it's the sense of community here that I've really grown to really enjoy. And it's really a sense of community that I have found to be home, one that would be great to have, again, like I said, those pedestrian-friendly, safe streets, but also a coalition of working voices to really solve these problems, from port sustainability and environmentalism, all the way down to making sure that it's a great place for all people, all backgrounds, and all families. So I'm looking forward to hopefully being part of this and enjoying it all.
Thank you. So we'll move to the Summerlin and Merrill West area, and this time we'll ask Thomas Norman to start.
Thank you. I'd like to conclude by just saying, having had the opportunity to serve for 2 years and seeing the folks who showed up tonight for this call and those that are watching, I'm just willing to spend the time. There are several hours a week you spend doing this job, and I find it worthwhile. It's not always the most fun thing to sit still. Some of these meetings go for 3 hours. There are things we might have that are more fun, but each of you that are here tonight, your willingness to serve your community, as we've heard, is what really impresses me. Several people here I see in the squares, you've impressed me with what you've done to lead San Pedro and encouraged me to put my head in the ring again for this opportunity. You'll see the same person you see in those 2 years, somebody who really tries to do his best at whatever he puts his mind to, and has all of our community in my heart when I'm doing so. Thank you.
Thank you. The next candidate will be Robert Beliveau.
Oh, yes. Hi again. I think everyone made very good points this evening. Unfortunately, the one situation we haven't talked about is the unincorporated status of our city of San Pedro that doesn't have its own police department. And sometimes that creates a gray area in the law where we have organized crime that's not necessarily being held accountable. And it seems to be imposing upon the people of Los Angeles all the way down to Los Angeles on 27th Street and coincidentally San Pedro Street on June 30th, 2021. These people were displaced from their homes because of a 5,000 pounds of dynamite that was discharged without really good explanation beyond the fact now that they're stuck in a class action lawsuit and they're being subjected to financial hardships, and this will lead to their foreclosure, and they're stuck in a probate or so, I'm sorry, they're stuck in a class action lawsuit currently. But you know, the situation is we have people being targeted in aging immigrant homeowner communities like San Pedro in Maryland Canyon Estates.
Thank you.
So next we'll hear from Gwendolyn Henry.
So I was chair of the Sustainability and Environmental Committee, and I'm thrilled that it was now incorporated into the Port Environmental and Sustainability Committee. And Thomas is chairing this larger committee. But with that, it will be continued engagement. We've submitted a lot of different really important papers on and motions and resolutions regarding the port, the continued development of this community. And I'm going to continue to do these things, whether I'm elected or not. You will see me in the committees. You will see me at events as a volunteer. So this is important. I hope that everyone who's on this will do this. It's just absolutely crucial that we get in, we engage everybody else. And
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving to the Taper area, Vic Christensen.
I'll add to the what's an important issue, something that I can actually do something about rather than not being an expert on things like homelessness. The Science Center, what's officially called the Vic and Bonnie Christensen Math, Science and Technology Center on Berrywood, has been long mismanaged and used to have animals there. The kids could go and plant gardens, and you know, especially something like inner city kids who may have never touched a goat or a rabbit could go there and see and touch and interact with all these farm animals. Those have been long gone, and I have been trying to get them back for years. And LAUSD is, well, LAUSD. So that is my, thing, is to get them back to be the jewel of the science program of the LAUSD, so the students can go there again and learn.
Thank you. We'll move to the at-large seat. Alan Nation. You want to start?
Yeah, so I heard about this council through advocacy group I follow called Streets for All. And after doing some research on my own, I realized that how much better our city could be. And so I just wanted to have a voice in government. So, aside from voting, I really wanted our city or area to be just a beautiful, vibrant place to live in. And so I just have at the end of the day, just have like a good life. And that's all that really matters to me. And so that means more protected bike lanes, walkability, more transit, especially in our area. Like there should be like a bus lane on Gaffey, for example. And so with that in mind, I felt like this is a good opportunity to, advocate for those who want to, and overall just have a good way of life.
Wrap up.
Thank you. Cynthia Gagne.
Can you repeat the question, please?
this is an opportunity for you to provide any additional information you think is important for voters to know about you and your candidacy.
Okay. Okay, since I had worked for the government for 33 years, then I decided that when I retired, I was going to volunteer my time back to the people. And since I've done that, I've worked on, I said before, the LA Mayor's Crisis Response Team. And we handled victims after there was a crime to help them out with the grief period. Presently, I work with the Sheriff's Division as a volunteer as a ham radio operator in case there's any big disaster. So we would be the communication when all communications go down. I also am a ham operator at the 5 mile races, but that's for fun. And I volunteer as a video director at my church. So I enjoy being retired, but also working for the people. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move to the April area and we'll start off with Chris Valle.
Thanks. My times on the board and going into it, Northwest Neighborhood Council had already had a very high reputation and already achieved quite a lot of things. The Neighborhood Council system is well over 20 years old now. And I think one of the biggest challenges we have going forward is to sort of to evolve out of the relatively narrow niche that has been established by the city charter, that is to help organize our community and our board and our committee members to do more than our mission statement. That we have certain limitations by design, but it doesn't mean that we can't encourage people and demonstrate what happens, when you advocate, when you involve yourself, and when you participate. I think that we can do more than we have, and just setting that example for other neighborhood councils and other neighborhoods is one of the best things that we can do. All the topics that have been touched on tonight, all the different issues need to run through a robust and vigorous advocacy program, which I think we can provide.
Thank you. Amelia Coitamp.
All right, so here's some stuff to know, right? The council as it stands now is overwhelmingly homeowners, older, whiter, and straighter. You all have talked a big game about outreach expertise, and yet in this meeting, we have all of 9 attendees. This is pathetic and simply not emblematic of what Pedro is or what Pedro is becoming. We need less politics as usual and more solutions, innovation over stagnation, right? San Pedro needs to either be an equal partner with the rest of LA or it needs to leave, right? It's time that we stop bullshitting, we stop pretending that we care about these things and actually get our hands out there, get in, do direct democracy, advocate for our neighbors, house the unhoused, feed the hungry, heal the earth, and stand with our unions, ILW, UTLA, and the burgeoning unions everywhere. So for us, the poor, the renters, the youth, the downtrodden, it's now time for us to take our place in the sun.
Thank you. We'll move to the business representative seat, Ray Regalado.
Let me tell you right off the bat that if any of you have any idea how much time you're going to be spending on the neighborhood council system, double it, maybe even triple it, because it's a lot of work. But if you're going to do it effectively, you're going to do it by being here, listening, and being an advocate. My whole career with government has been as a human rights advocate with the Human Relations Commission. And I have found myself in some really dire communities that are suffering through time of segregation, racism, and everything like that. My commitment to my community is to put into work what I have done professionally, and my promise is to continue that work in human rights.
Thank you. We'll move to the non-governmental organization seat, Pastor Stevenson.
When Solomon became king, the one thing that he requested was wisdom, right? He said, give me a discerning heart that I may govern well. He could ask for political power, he could ask for riches, a lot of things he could have, but he was more concerned with how he managed people. And so I realized that being a part of this neighborhood council is opportunity to serve and to serve people and to serve them well, right? And so that's all about me. That's all I ask for. Give me a discerning heart that I do not mismanage people. Born and raised in San Pedro my entire life. And Park Western and Peck Park was a field trip for us when we came up from the projects to it. So to make it this far, to be able to have impact in the city and to be this blessed, I'm just thankful. And so I hope for the opportunity to share and to learn at the same time. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So then we'll move to the Park Western area, and this time we'll start with Corey Miller.
I believe I already answered this question.
You're right, right, we finished. That was it. Now everyone's had a chance to give a closing remark, right? I didn't miss anyone. Okay, this concludes the candidate forum portion of our meeting. If you missed something or would like to share this forum with your friends and neighbors, it will be posted on our website, nwsanpedro.org. Thank you for caring about your community and for attending this forum. If you want to get more involved with the neighborhood council or might consider volunteering for a committee, please email board@nwsanpedro.org. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to John.
Thank you, guys. It was great listening. You guys were fantastic, and I wish you all the best. Now, this next item on our agenda is public comment, and the public comment will be limited to 1 minute per person. Candidates will not be able to answer any questions as required by the Brown Act. We will not be able to respond to any public comment except to answer technical questions about the election. So if you wish to make a public comment, please use the raise your hand function. If you are on the phone, please enter *9. When you are called on to speak, please provide your name. I will ask myself to run the countdown of the clock so that I can keep within the time limit. Okay. Do we have any public comments? I have no hands at this time, Diana.
So you can call the meeting you can conclude the meeting, John.
So, okay, so I want to thank Lori. I want to thank Diana for assisting tonight. In closing, I would like to wish and the best of luck to all of the candidates. Remember, we will be posting the video on this session at nwsanpedro.org. Have a good evening, and thank you all for joining the candidate forum.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.